Well, great. I'll get started with a quick presentation, and then we're going to, and through that presentation, we're going to look at the new products that we are bringing to market and the new technology that we've invented in order to make these kits possible. After that teaser about what it is that we're bringing to market, Joe's going to go through more of a detailed look at how these kits integrate with various types of prostheses and orthotic solutions. And then look at it really with more of a clinical eye to answer some of the questions that you all may be having from the clinical standpoint. So we'll get started now. I'll share my screen. You guys seeing that okay?
Yep, good.
Great. So for 6 years now, gosh, we just had our birthday, 7 years now. We have been asking the world, can you adjust? Can you think about taking a typically rigid solution that has been made for patients for so long, and can we adjust the way that we approach how to build a prosthesis, the way that we outfit patients with devices to help them become mobile again? And many of you have answered that call. Many of you have done so with incredible results and with some real ingenuity that has astounded us. We have been so fortunate to have the partnership of all of you who have tried our technology, who have used it, who have gone out on a limb in the beginning years to try something new for your patients. And so thank you for that. You've come back with very particular questions about, this is great, but what's next? What else can I do with this? What more might you have up your sleeve here at Click? So it's pretty exciting. Sorry, just gonna close the door. Pretty exciting to be working with you guys on what those next solutions are. We're also pretty excited about the answers to the questions that you guys have brought to us. Many of you had said, hey, we'd love your product, but we want the reels to be lower in profile. Totally understandable, and we have heard that loud and clear. You've asked for the reel to be a little bit easier for patients to use. Sometimes reels are really difficult, especially as they get to really high tensions. And so we have addressed that. You've asked us for various safety features to make sure that all patients are safe when using these devices. You've asked us to understand, when do I need to change the lace? At what point do I know that there needs to be a lace change? For fabrication, you've asked us, you've told us very clearly that there are certain elements of the fabrication process, or the way that most specifically the way that the lamination dummies are built, that can cause you problems or take time. And lastly, there's been a pretty clear chorus of people asking for ways to add adjustability to an existing socket that is causing problems, and they want to fix it, or they want to find a way to be able to empower an existing device to be used for a little bit longer. All of those things we have wrapped up into a pretty incredible package, and we're going to show you that package today. First, I'm going to show you a video that tells you about our reel technology, really the heart of the innovations and the changes that we've made in order to answer many of those questions that we just went through. And then I'm going to show you how those integrate into the various kits that we'll be offering. The most exciting part is that rather than using the reels that we have used in the past, made by BOA Technology, we have really honed in the technology so that it's specifically built for the orthotics and prosthetics industry. Really looking at all those objections or the requests that you had brought to the table and answering them very specifically. So here's what this looks like. Again, I may need to change screens, or can you see that? Okay. Seeing that okay, Joe? Here we go.
You can see it.
Okay, so that is the new reel technology that we have developed. We're going to go through some of those elements. Go forward. You guys seeing that screen again, just to make sure?
Yep.
Great. So you saw all of these great teasers and elements of what it is that we've built into the reel. We're going to go through them real quickly just to make sure that you have a chance to absorb them and understand. Biggest request over the years has been, can we reduce the profile of the reel? And we're really proud. It took a lot of work, but we've reduced it by 30%. And that 30% reduction comes with just a little bit wider of a reel. It went from, gosh, I'm forgetting my dimensions right now, but it went from like 36, I believe, to 39 or 40 millimeters in diameter, a little bit bigger in its overall footprint, 30% lower in its profile. We found most people really like this. A little bit easier to grab, a little bit less finicky for folks that have any dexterity issues. So we think this is going to be an incredible new element of adding adjustability to a socket with this low profile. The next part is really the heart of the technology that we've developed, and that's what we call the shift. So many people have come to us and said, we like adjusting, we like the power that the reel provides us to enact or to create adjustability within the device. But boy, I have to wind it over and over again. I have to wind it a lot, and it seems like it's too much. So what we did was we developed what we call the shift. And what the shift does is allow you to draw in slack lace as you're first donning the device really quickly. It's a one-to-one mechanical advantage. So you have one turn of the reel is one turn of the spool, and it really winds up lace quickly. Once that lace reaches tension, then the reel automatically shifts into a 7-to-1 power mode. 7-to-1 is a lot. That's 7 turns gets you one wrap of the spool. It's like adding 6 different pulleys into a system. So it really provides a lot of power, a lot of adjustability, and also with that, you have an incredible resolution when you're winding up micromillimeters to be able to create the perfect fit. In addition to creating the perfect fit and winding forwards, we also answered the question that so many have asked, which is, can I back it off just a little bit? And the ability to wind forwards to create tension and backwards to release tension is a big game changer in how this system will work on devices. We think patients will be really grateful for that, especially as they just sit down at their desk after they've gotten to work, or if they're in their car, or they just need something just a wee bit different. They can wind forwards or wind backwards really easily. We've also integrated some great safety components into this reel. Primarily, people have asked us for years for metal componentry inside of the reel. We're creating huge forces inside of a prosthesis, a carbon fiber shell that's very rigid, and we're moving that carbon fiber shell. Those high forces, plus patient weight and high levels of activity, they put a lot of stress onto the overall system. And we've had failures. Our number one failure mode in the system in the past has been the plastic spools crushing under high loads. So we worked really hard to add metal componentry throughout the system to really provide huge amounts of safety and create reels that will really last the life and even the abuse that a socket sees. But we thought we'd take that one step further. So many of you have come to us and said, hey, I would use that product, but man, my patient doesn't have good feeling in their limb. Or, I just don't trust my patient to dial this dial to the correct level. Well, we've tried to answer that too. And what we've done is we've integrated a clutch into this dial. And you can see there's a little Allen wrench that you can just use a standard Allen wrench in order to drive a screw in the monospoke of that reel. Little bit of change in the forward direction will allow you to increase the maximum tension that lace can provide. Or more likely, you may want to back off that screw and lower the overall tension that can be created by the reel. In doing so, you're creating a very repeatable closure, so you always go to the same tension every time, or you're creating a maximum, which will keep a patient from over-tightening their device. Really simple, really quick, and a really great way to create safety for your overall safety for the patient. Lastly, I want to talk about this new, what we call the indicator lace. So many people have called asking us, well, how do I know that the lace needs to be replaced? You know, is it fuzzy enough, or when should I worry about it? And it's a difficult question to answer. So we built a lace that actually tells you when it's ready to be replaced. And how it does that is that those black fibers that are integrated into the weave of the lace, they wear a little bit faster than the white fibers throughout the lace. And so what happens is you can visually look at a lace and understand either where some specific wear might be happening and maybe find a sharper edge that you need to sand down a little bit. Or maybe you just, you can talk to your patient on the phone and say, take a look. Are your black fibers really standing up at attention? If they are, let's get you in and we'll get a lace replacement done. If they're not, I think you're good. One key part to this is that we built it so that even if the black laces were completely worn, it's still 1/12 of the overall braid. So you still have plenty of lace life left. You just know that you need to get it replaced sometime in the near future. So it allows you to schedule, allows you to make sure that you're working proactively. Those are the main features of the new technology that we've developed. Now I want to tell you about how we've packaged that new technology into 3 really great kits, or more specifically, 3 really great product lines that have a couple of multiple kits in order to give you exactly what you're looking for. We've kept the RevoFit, lamination and diagnostic kits for building adjustability into prostheses. Also some orthoses, especially carbon fiber orthoses that are built. We've built the Revo Lock and really expanded it into 2 different kits that address suspension in 2 different ways. And then we're really excited to take you through the Revo Surface Kit, which we're even calling a toolkit because it allows for you to have a lot of variability in how you add adjustability to a device. So let's start with the RevoFit. The RevoFit, of course, uses the new click reel. It's got the safety clutch and the indicator lace. It also comes with a whole new lamination dummy. And that lamination dummy, it's also the collar that accepts the reel and holds it fast to the socket. We made it simple. We made it lower profile. We made it easier to fabricate with. We made it harder to run into some of the known problems of the older dummy. We reinvented the whole thing. And it really makes lamination easy. We've even added color coding to the, you can see the blue dots and the yellow dot there on the right-hand picture of the collar that help you understand which ports to use when you're trying to route the lace either at 180 degrees or in a parallel fashion. And then lastly, we've really solved a big problem here, which is creating tubing that is really flexible and really resists kinking. In the current tubing that we have now, the biggest problem that we see in fabrication is a piece of tubing that was kinked and then doesn't allow for good passage of the lace to go through it. So we set out to solve that with really flexible tubing that you can create much tighter turn radius with. And then we also used a material that's really good at self-healing. So even if you mess up and you kink the lace or kink the tubing, that tubing tends to reform. Just give it a couple minutes, maybe add a tiny bit of heat, and it reforms back into a shape that really allows for easy lace passage. So we hope to eliminate or vastly reduce the amount of issues that are seen in the fabrication process by integrating those new changes. Otherwise, RevoFit works the same. You can do gaps, you can do panels, you can do hinges. And we have a great new education program, which we'll show you at the end here, that can help you determine the designs that you want to integrate into a socket for any one particular patient indication. That's the new technology in the RevoFit kit. Now let's look at Revo Lock. Revo Lock has been a great product that has, it's done pretty well worldwide, especially in the Australasia area. It's done really well. In Europe, it's done really well. We wanted to really rethink this product because it's such a great way to empower a patient in so many ways. One, it's easier to use. Two, you can suspend the limb even if you're not fully seated as the limb volume changes in the morning or as you start donning that socket. But we had a lot of feedback that this system needed a couple of upgrades that were really important. One of those upgrades was that fabrication needed to be a little bit more straightforward and within standard fabrication processes. The other piece of feedback that was really important is that people wanted to be able to decouple the liner from the lace. And in order to do so, we needed to create something that you could connect. So here are two great kits. We've got the Revo Lock 4-hole kit and the Revo Lock Align kit. The 4-hole kit is built off of standard 4-hole geometry. It has a 4-hole plate that mates with a distal puck. And that distal puck is the exact same size, 65 millimeters, as most of the pin locks that are out there. What this means is that it's very easy to fabricate with pretty standard, very standard fabrication methods. And we've even created a tool form that allows for really seamless fabrication. But one of the really exciting parts of it is that this distal puck and its 4-hole plate, they can replace an existing pin lock. If you have a patient come in who's really struggling with their pin lock, no problem. Take out that old pin lock, put in the new Revo Lock. Add a reel to the outside of the socket. It's pretty easy to do so. And now you've fixed an existing socket that really empowers a patient. All of that comes with this snap and screw that we've developed. And the snap connects to the lace and the screw connects to the liner. And then it's very easy for the patient to connect those two pieces together, even blind. And literally we had a blind patient test this recently and they loved it. But at the end of the limb where you can't really see, there is an easy connection that really makes sure that you've connected it. And then you just draw the liner down into the socket. It works really, really well. Lastly, let me talk about the Align housing. So we've got the 4-hole housing with the 4-hole plate, but then we also knew that folks would want to build a distal housing to draw the liner in, not always in standard alignment. So if there's any kind of alignment scenario where you've got that you have to manage for, or you just really like a really slim distal end, maybe it's because you've got a really low volume limb or an upper extremity that you want to manage for. Well, the Align kit is a perfect way to go. It's I'm forgetting my dimension, Joe. Do you remember the dimension? I think is it 25 millimeters in diameter? So it's much smaller than the 4-hole puck at 65 millimeters. And this is a really easy to laminate process where you use a plug that mounts to the model, and then you just put the Align housing right over it and plug your tubing into it. Really easy, really straightforward. And then you can place that Align housing really anywhere in the, anywhere reasonable of the distal end of the socket to allow for non-standard alignment to occur. So we're really excited about these two new kits. Joe will show you some of the details in a moment. These come with the new reel, of course, new lamination collar and dummy for easier fabrication. They come with the indicator lace. They come with the new flexible tubing. And so these are going to be really interesting and easy for you to use. We're excited for you to give them a try. Lastly, I want to talk to you about the Revo Surface. The Revo Surface kit is really the brainchild of many years. I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's probably 12 to 15 years of thought process in how to really empower a practitioner to be able to use adjustable components in a way that really makes it easy. Whether you're testing something in a test phase, whether you're building a plastic orthosis, whether you're building a carbon fiber device, or whether you're even wanting to fix something that isn't working for a patient now, we wanted to provide you with tools that are really simple to use. So we made everything able to be riveted or screwed in place. So all you got to do is drill some holes. Drill holes, and then you can attach the various guides that you might use on a device. And then you can attach a collar that accepts the reel with 4 included screws. You can do this from the outside of the device. You can attach them from the inside of the device. Makes it really simple to set up the configurations onto really any kind of device that you're working with. That is a big innovation where in the past, there was a lot of guides and elements of the reel that were really meant to be stitched into place. And that's just not that compatible with the industry. So we're really excited to have all of the components of this kit able to be fastened in the way that we fasten things in O&P. Now let me talk about the guides, and want to bring your attention to this upper picture. What's really exciting about these guides is that within one package, one guide, you are able to configure these guides in a lot of different ways. You can configure them in a fixed fashion so that the lace is fixed. It's always going to stay on that guide. It's not going to release. Or with literally turning that top cap 180 degrees, you can change that fixed guide into a releasing guide. And that releasing guide is then mated with a handle that snaps right onto the lace. And now you have an opportunity to completely release one side of the device for easy on and offing. Really great for ankles that are fused or don't have a lot of range of motion. Great for a crow boot, various types of devices that you really need to open wide in order to get into. And then you simply pull those handles, reconnect onto the releasing surface guide, and boom, you're ready to go, ready to wind it up and start to create the fit that you're looking for. We think this kit really empowers practitioners to be able to test adjustability on a device, to be able to fix an existing device, and ultimately to outfit various types of permanent devices with adjustability in a really quick and configurable way. And let me hit that last point real quick. Configurations are really kind of endless. This kit includes 10 surface guides. You could use one along with the reel to create just a very simple strap. You could use 2 to create a very simple strap. You can use 2 with releasing handles to create a releasing simple strap. You can create a dynamic strap here where there's the configuration to really work on closing a device around a conical portion of the body and have it not migrate. You can use 10 guides if you need in order to create closure across a long distance, like a big crow boot. Or you could use fewer guides, like the last picture there of just a small AFO. That's 6 guides, works great. Put the 4 extra guides in your drawer, and if you need them at a later date, they're easy to grab. So Revo Surface, it's a fantastic new tool that is going to enable you as a practitioner to do a lot of great work. And we're really excited for you to get your hands on this particular kit. You might be asking yourself, awesome, when is this stuff ready? We're working really hard, and the global condition of shutdowns and COVID and lack of travel has been challenging for us. It has pushed our date out to October 1st. At that point, we are going to have product all in the hands of Massons. They're going to have done lots of training. They're probably going to even have shown you product and given you an opportunity to play with it and feel it and understand it. And then by October 1, that's when the ability to actually order and start to use these kits will be available to you. The last thing that I want to go through is that we've not only redeveloped all of the technology and the kits that the technology goes in, but we also set out to reinvent the education process. we really wanted to empower everyone in the chain of getting a device from a conceptual stage onto the patient, whether that's the technician, the prosthetist, the orthotist, even the support crew within a clinic that needs to know the various ways that these products work. In the past, you may have tried our Can You Adjust program, and that has really had great response. But the reality is that it only showed you two things: how to make an AK socket and how to make a BK socket. Well, we developed Click Academy to be comprehensive. So it covers how to use RevoFit, RevoLock, and RevoSurface. It also covers how to design those products, how to fabricate those products, how to optimize them for great patient fit, and even how to expand your thinking about how it might work for different indications or in different manners or with different mixes of technology. The Click Academy is really awesome, and we're so excited for you guys to dive in and start learning the new way to really be thinking about all of these components of bringing adjustability into various devices. This, in the US, this does come with a lot of credits, a lot of CEU credits. We'll be working with Massens and to see what we can do to replicate or find at least some level of continuing education credits for your region. And with that, I want to move on to talking to Joe and have him talk on a clinical level and show you some of these elements face to face so that you guys can get a better idea of what is coming down the road. Thanks for listening, and Joe, we'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'm here in the lab, as you can see, and I got a handful of demos here and little bits and pieces that I'm happy to show you. Just to touch base a little bit on what Jimmy said previously about the education program, the new Click Academy. It is open, it is available. And just to know, one of the differences is, our current program was just based on RevoFit. But the new one, we have education on RevoLock, and we have education on RevoSurface. And RevoSurface being a brand new kit, we put a lot of thought into that. We discussed and outlined different types of designs, fabrication processes and things. So we think that's a really, they're all very important, but that's something that is totally new, the RevoSurface. So I really encourage people to go there and look at it. We think it's going to be a great tool for people in terms of adding on, retrofitting, expanding their kind of thoughts and designs. So we're really excited about that kit. But we encourage people to go to the Click Academy, check it out, and hopefully we can get some credits out to you in Australia, New Zealand. Hopefully we can get that stuff to transfer over, because I think it was about eight units per RevoFit, 8 for RevoLock, and 8 for RevoSurface. So we'll see what we can do. And in that new education, for RevoFit, we started talking about adjustability kind of in a little bit of a different way. And basically talking about adjustability as it pertains to panels, gaps, and hinges. And those kind of, we kind of transcended across the line between prosthetic and orthotic there. So we have examples of panels and gaps and hinges for both types of devices, because we are seeing more and more orthotic applications. And we wanted to show, some cases there just to encourage people to start using some of these devices or some of these kits in that orthotic space. So it's a great new tool. Super excited for it. In terms of what I have here, I can start with just a few demos that we have built. And let me just maybe start with kind of showing you the difference in the dial. And I know you saw the video, and this is not great. Well, in terms of, here, but this is kind of real life, what we're talking about in terms of build height and profile. So as you can see here, quite a bit of difference there. A little bit, like Jimmy said, a little bit wider in terms of XY diameter. It was interesting because we asked, we surveyed a lot of people and we asked, if you could change anything, in terms of size, what would it be? Of course, everyone said, we want it to be lower in profile in Z height, so it doesn't snag on your clothes and things like that. But we got about half the people said, we'd like to have it smaller in size, and the other half said, you know what, we want it to be a little bit wider, a little bit bigger in size, because I got big hands and I have a hard time grabbing this little teeny dial to make it do anything. We did go a little bit wider in the XY. In terms of dimensions, I can give them to you here. Looks like we're at 40 millimeters in XY compared to about 36, it looks like. So 4 millimeters wider, but about 6 or 7 millimeters lower in Z height. So we're pretty excited about that. One of the things that people have said, that some of the beta testers, the main thing that people talk about is the ability to go forwards and backwards. So micro adjust forwards and micro adjust backwards. That's a pretty big deal for people. We didn't really recognize that because we're not wearing them. But people really load these things up and they get a lot of tension on them. And sometimes they, over tighten it. And the tighter you crank on this thing, currently with the BOA, the tighter it is, the harder it is to pull out and release. And especially if you have like tight fitting clothing, pulling out it's even harder. So we wanted to make it micro adjustable in the forwards and the backwards. The current BOA it's micro adjustable forwards, but it's not micro adjustable backwards. I mean, as soon as you release tension, it just back spools, and you kind of don't know where you were. This we think is, people have already commented saying, we really love the fact that we can go forwards, and if we went too far, we just go back one click and we're in our spot. We don't have to start from zero again. And also the lower profile, of course, is better under the clothing. It doesn't hook clothing or snag clothing as easily. Originally we had, we were playing around with different grips and grip heights. And, we had this a fair bit lower, but if it's any lower, there's nothing to grab. So we had to make it, tall enough to get your hands on it. We had to have something there. So, but we're really excited about the new size, and we think people are going to like it. We've got, can kind of show you a couple more examples here. Here's a Revo lock, and you can see the build height, is it's a little tough with the shine, but as you can see here, it's pretty low. You gotta grab onto something here. So that's what that looks like there. Just a sample. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got the Revo lock, and I can show you that. Here we've got the new snap. So this is the socket that was built. This is a little trans-tibial. This is the Revo lock Align. So this, the Align housing is this smaller housing. And we use this for, you can use it for upper limb or for lower limb. A lot of times we use it for transtibials. If you want something more tapered, a more tapered look. If you have to transfer the alignment, you would use the Revo Align. This mounts to the bottom of the socket. You laminate over the top of it, pull the plug out, and you're ready to go. So here's there's the dial mounted proximal there, and you can see the profile. And then here's the new snap. And I'm going to show you this. The new snap has a little button on the side you can see there, and there's a little spring behind that. And you have to push the button in order to slide the insert off. And here's the threaded insert, standard thread pitch. It's got a little ball plunger here so that it locks back into the snap when you slide it in, locks itself into place, and you can't release this unless you push the button. It does have an O-ring on it, so there is an air seal. It is not 100% air proof, okay? It does eliminate that whooshing sound that happens when you're walking, but because of the snap, there is a little teeny hole here that we have to thread the lace through. So there is a way for air to come up and creep up into this. So it is not totally suction proof or elevated vacuum proof. Typically, you would have one or the other, but it does eliminate the airflow that gets pushed out through the tubing as people walk. So that's the new thing, and you can get multiples of these. So you could have the thread insert on on different liners, and then the snap just lives on the lace. And there's the lace there. You can see there's a little indicators, a little black hairs. So over time, those black hairs will get a little bit taller, and then you'll say, okay, it's it's time to change that lace. We still recommend looking at the lace every 6 months, changing it every year at maximum. Sometimes people are changing them every 6 months as well. But we definitely recommend to always keep an eye on a lace. It is just lace; it's spectra, so it does wear over time and it does fray, especially if you've got sharp carbon edges or something. So you got to be mindful of that. But the one thing is that it'll tell you when it needs to be changed. But what I would like about it is that it tells you where the fraying is happening. So it can tell you which edge you're rubbing on. And maybe you have to go back and hit it on the grinder or buff it out a little bit more. So it can tell you when, but it also can tell you where those lace damage is occurring. So pretty cool. We're pretty excited about that lace. We have the 4-hole puck here, and it also has an O-ring around it. So we are, again, creating an air seal. That's the standard 4-hole alignment. And I don't know, do you, this is maybe a question for Simon if he's on. Do you use the 4-hole alignment, the APC or the Bulldogs or any of those 4-hole configurations, Simon?
Maybe. Yeah, in some occasions, yes. And I'm sure across our regions, people do use 4-hole pucks.
They do, okay. Just wasn't sure, because Jimmy talked about replacing your pin lock with, with a lanyard system. True, but it's got to be one of those 4-hole configurations, right? So that's what we're talking about. Is if you have someone with a trebled pin lock, you can remove that, because we did make this the same dimension. So you're 25, 2.5 centimeters high, and the width is the same. I believe it's 65. And so it's retrofittable into an existing 4-hole system. And then you could combine this in conjunction with the Revo Surface collar, which this is the Revo Surface collar here. And it's got a metal insert. And then as you can see, you can attach it from the top, or you can attach it from the inside if you wanted, depending on how it sets on the socket, how it's configured. But there's a couple different ways to attach this, but you could potentially retrofit a Revo lock into an existing system. But so those are the two lock options. You've got the 4-hole option, which is, as you can see, a little bit lower in build height than the Revo Align. So in terms of build height here, you're looking at 35 millimeters versus our old system was 25. So our current Revo lock is a 25 build height. The new one is 35, so a little bit taller. Also a little bit wider. Okay, it's I believe 45. Let's see here. Yeah, 4.5 centimeters wide. So it's a little bit wider than our current one as well. That was because the one that we have it's great. It's super small. It's compact. But a lot of people complain that it was too small, because when it sits on the bottom of a socket, especially if it's a transfemoral, you have to taper this transfemoral all the way down to this little teeny Revo lock. And it's tough to get a PVA bag and cinch that thing down and tie off into that groove. And so we ended up making the Revo lock Align just a little bit broader in the XY dimension, just to make it a little bit easier and really a better transition from such a large a distal part of a socket into the lock unit itself. But super lightweight, indestructible. Here with the Revo lock, we've got a metal plate underneath here, obviously ISO tested, everything passed, everything's good here. So, really looking forward to having these options. This can be done at the single shot lamination. Same thing with this. This can be done with single shot or double shot, depending on if you're transferring the alignment or not. We also have the ability to do this in a double shot lamination. We've got a plate that we sell with our tool form, so that if you're incorporating a Revo fit with this puck system and you want to install a Revo fit on the second lamination, you don't want to do it all in the first lam, then that we have a spacer plate that comes with a tool form that allows you to use this system with a double shot lamination. So just depends on if you're adding that Revo fit to that system or not. Okay. We also have a threaded insert for upper limb liners. So the little teeny one. It's not a snap. Okay, this is just a standard threaded, but it's for upper limb users, so that they can still use the same housing for the Revo Align. So there's that as well. Now I can go into, let's see, Revo Surface. So we have some Revo Surface here, and we just threw these on some plastic check sockets. So we've got a transfemoral here, and then we've got a transtibial here. With the transfemoral, you can see we just put it on the outside. We riveted actually from the inside, depending on if they're wearing a flexible insert or not. So depending on, if their skin is up against this, then you'd want something nice and flat in there, obviously. And then we have a couple of guides here that we attached. Instead of having a Dacron strap, you could have something like this, where this is kind of we call it like a power strap. So again, you got 1-to-1, really fast lace uptake, and then once it starts to feel some tension, it shifts to 7-to-1 and creates a lot of power, a lot of force to close that gap. So that's what that looks like, and that's what those guides look like there. Now, if I take the top off of these guides and I flip it, I can make these releasing guides. And I wouldn't necessarily need that with this configuration, but for example, if I'm gonna make a leather gauntlet AFO, where I need to open it up completely to get the foot in, or maybe I'm going to make a hip disarticulation socket where I need to open up the hip or the hemi, portion of the socket so they can don it and close it. When you have to have that, we have these little releasing guides, and these releasing guides, back off some tension here. They have these little handles, and you can see here, there's a little handle, and the lace just gets fed through. So if you had installed, maybe some fixed guides onto something, and you're like, you know what, we need to open this thing up, and add some releasing guides. You don't have to totally redo everything. All you have to do is take the bolts or the nut off the top. You just flip the top of the guide 180 degrees, and it goes from a fixed guide to a releasing guide. And the releasing guide just allows you to fully open something like that. And then it's got this cool little handle, and then it allows you just to lock it back into place. So really slick, really, these are really quite small in terms of, size, just enough to grab onto here, snap them into place. This one's in the fixed configuration, so you kind of hard to see, but there's a little teeny gate right there. And that little gate just keeps that lace from coming out. So there's no way for that lace to come out on the side. And then, as you can see here, this is kind of like a dynamic type of strap. This would be kind of a simple strap where you're just kind of going, there and back. Okay. This is a little more dynamic in fashion, so that, you could do something like this on a more cylindrical type of device. Maybe it's a humeral cuff or a thigh cuff or something. You're adding some power here because you got some block and tackle going on. Not that you really need more power, but the more crisscrosses you do, obviously, the more power that you can get. You start to lose some lace capacity, obviously, the more back and forth you do. So you got to be careful. But the new dial does have lace capacity of, I think, 50 centimeters. Is that right, Jimmy? I think it's around 50.
Yep.
So
Yep.
a little bit more than our current system, just so you know. Most people, for RevoFit, you're not using all that capacity unless you have to fully open something. Sometimes for like a PFFD or something like that, where you have to, fully open to get a foot through a certain area. That's, and on the RevoFit side of things, that's when you're going to use that full capacity. But if you didn't want to, use the full capacity, you could, throw in some releasing guides. And you don't have to have a full capacity to open and close. You could just simply have a little bit of capacity, and then you just unhook these two, and then there you go. So got some really cool new options here with this Revo Surface. We're super excited for it. I'm not an orthotist, as you all know, I think. And I don't even pretend to be one because I didn't learn about it in school. But we're really excited, and the people that we have, have done some testing for us. are really liking kind of the modularity of it. This really kind of simple, clean finish, low profile, and just having the ability to release and not release is really nice in one feature. Some of our old kind of releasing guides, you had to angle and clip into place, and sometimes the angles were hard to get, and if it was tight, it was challenging. So we're just kind of really excited about the simplicity of this and kind of the ease of use. Jimmy's given this a lot of thought. He's been working with guides since his days at BOA 15 years ago, and back when we had toolkits and things of all kinds of different bits and pieces of plastic, and people just didn't know what to do with it. So he put a lot of thought and effort into this and came out with something that is awesome because it's just so simple. And just it's really you can use it on a lot of different things, and you can add bits and pieces together to create modularity that just we think people are going to really like. Here's a transtibial with a Revo surface on it, and we're starting to see this kind of design more and more. Kind of simple AP compression, and some people have Kesey cones in here. Some people have flexible inserts, depending on what the use case is, but. We kind of like this really simple AP compression that can help decrease some levering and decrease some of that distal tibia pressure just by tightening this AP. And so this is, can be done on a check socket or maybe a preparatory socket or something. We recommend using it on, pretty safe plastic. This is on high density polyethylene. Not the best plastic for adjustability because it can crack. So you want a plastic that's maybe a little bit more robust in terms of has some flexibility, some flexible characteristics to it. And as you can see here, we mounted it on the back, posterior. This is before we made a shim. So this, we kind of, because things are on a radius, right? Everything's round. Most of our sockets that we make are round. So it's hard to put something flat like a base onto something round. And so oftentimes we say, mount it on there, flatten it out first, mount it on, and then, backfill it with some putty or some adhesive or some composite adhesive or something. Well, we actually made some shims, and we have these cool little shims that you can put underneath the base that compensate for the radius of your device. So some cool shims. They're made out of rubber. They're really grippy and grabby. They've got holes that you can mount your hardware through, but it allows you to mount these dials and maintain a nice flat surface, which we need to have the dial perform the way we need it. Nice flat surface there, but obviously adapting that to a round radius. So not always easy to do. And these shims aren't, they're just one size. So, we think it's the kind of the happy medium for all the sizes. It's you may still have to do a little bit of grinding and whatnot, but we think these shims will come in pretty handy for the Revo surface. In terms of the other bits and pieces, the tubing, we've got this cool new tubing, and it's kind of hard to get excited about tubing, I know, but for all those technicians out there or people that make their own stuff, and all those people that have made sockets where they've got kink the tube or whatever. We've got this great new tubing, and we say it's kink proof. I mean, I can kink this if I want to. If I just snap it in half, I can. But you can see here that we can get pretty tight with this radius, before, it kinks. So that's pretty snug. I mean, that's my finger there. And, I got pretty small hands here. So that's pretty good. With our current tubing, I mean, you get close and it just goes, right? And the problem with our current tubing is once you crease it or once you kink it, you have this crease in there. And that crease, like, it does not want to come out. Even if I, smush it and heat it, that crease is a crease. And if that gets laminated in, you're going to have some sharp points, in your lamination. You may not be able to get your lace through there. It could be a sharp apex within the, of acrylic or something that creates a saw point for your lace. So you could break some lace pretty easily that way. Most of the time, they just can't even lace it. And so it's just a total failure from the start if you crease that. And it's tough because, it's covered in a sheath. And so even if you did kink it, you're like, you still kind of don't know because it's covered, right? We have this great new sheath. It's woven on the tube as it's made, and it's just super snug. That also helps in terms of keeping it kinking, because it just adds a little bit more bulk to it. But it's really snug. You can do this. You can use this in a single shot lamination. You can use a little bit of spray glue on this and to keep it into position, or you can just sandwich it in between layers of non-stretch fabric to keep it in place. But we see more and more people doing single shot laminations. And with this tubing and with this new sheath, we hope to see more and more people doing single shot laminations with our systems. Let's see, the dummy. What'd you call me? I'm just kidding. So this is the new dummy, and it's you can remove it, which is great. Like our current one, it's really tempting because it's like soft and it's silicone-y, and you're like looking at it, and if you never use the system, you grab it and you kind of flick it and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And some people have even like ripped it out, and they're like, oh dang, if you do that, you're throwing it away and you got to start over. Well, with this is removable. You can snap this into place. We don't recommend, I mean, you get a new one with each kit. But if you did, need to reuse this for some reason or whatever, it is removable, really easy to remove and then snap back into place into a new one. It's all coated. It's got, our name on it. It's got the ports on it, part numbers. We've got a metal bridge here. That's for the pilot hole for the release chamber. We added a metal bridge to that just for added safety and security. We've added, in terms of the dial itself, we've definitely added some weight because of all the metal parts that are inside. So we went from about a 25 gram, dial system, the BOA. We're right at 50 grams with the new one. So add some weight, but you can feel it. It's more solid. This thing's going to last, hopefully, the life of the socket, 3 to 5 years. Metal parts, metal spool, metal gears, metal pins, metal shaft. The only thing that's not metal is basically the grip and the base of the system. So everything else inside is metal parts. So we're super excited about having something that's kind of purpose built for medical. The thing with the current system is it's been great, and we love these things, and they served their purpose really, really well. But they're made for soft goods, and they're made for snowboarding boots, and they're made to be touched maybe 50 times a year. We've got patients that adjust their sockets 20 times a day, 365 days a year, exponentially more than what these were originally intended for. So we just wanted to have something that was purpose built for what we need, which is some heavy duty medical applications. These are rigid devices that we're putting these on. They're not soft goods. They don't have lots of squishy soft foam, most of them. These are hard carbon, hard plastic things. And so we made something that was going to stand up to those torques and those shear forces and that transfer of energy that happens with a prosthetic. So that's kind of the new product line.